uses on property and the zoning districts that would implement these uses. So we have comprehensive plan policies that outline what the uses should be under these designations and how they will be implemented. The primary uses in NEC are office and industrial uses. There are other commercial uses. There are commercial uses allowed, but they're in a limited fashion and usually accessory uses. There are residential uses allowed in NEC, and those are generally allowed as part of mixed-use developments. I'm sure some of you have heard of the Fruitville Initiative, and as you drove through here, you saw a lot of construction going on. Some of that is within the Fruitville Initiative. Fruitville Initiative is an NEC area, and the Fruitville Initiative is a mixed-use project, so there's going to be a lot of residential constructed in that property. The zoning districts within NEC are generally industrial like warehouse, industrial research. We have two planned districts, planned commerce development and planned economic development. Planned economic development is the zoning district that is covering the Fruitville Initiative, which is a very large area just north of Fruitville Road. And the next slide. And then there's a specific cap that we're dealing with, the Fruitville Road NEC critical area plan. This map that I have on the screen is the future land use plan map from that critical area plan. It has the different uses and assigns them to the different parcels in the critical area plan. This plan was adopted in 1985, consists of about 380 acres, and is defined by the main city canal to the east and I-75 to the west. It was originally created to map the NEC area. In 1985, our future land use plan map did not specifically map the NEC area. It was a big blob. And so the critical area plan was developed primarily to define what the limits of that NEC area was, and of course then to detail what the uses in it should be. The land use designations within this cap are listed there. Of course, there are light industrial and office designations, a little bit of commercial, and then there's some government use, and the PID is an older zoning district that we don't use anymore. This critical area plan is mostly developed. There are undeveloped portions of it. There's 29 or 30 acres in the very north end where there are cows now. Well, that property's been adapted into the Fruitville Initiative and technically really isn't part of this critical area plan anymore. The other mostly undeveloped portion of this is the county-owned plots parcels. This is a picture of what's typical in the industrial development area. This is what's generally referred to as a flex space building. It's a building that's leased by various tenants. There's multiple tenants. These tenants could be involved in activities, could be manufacturers, could be a printer, could be general contractors. Those are the kind of uses. And this is another picture of another building that has that same type of scenario, various leasees. And that's most of what's there. There's also a number of single-use buildings, like the one in the previous slide. And this slide I put in there just to illustrate. I was a little bit surprised to see this nice row of oaks in there, but there are a lot of really nice oaks that are within this critical area plan and the industrial area. They were mostly planted as part of the development. This row of oaks was planted probably in 1992, and it was part of the development of the property that it fronts on. And if we go to the next one. And then there's the scope of work, what the study involves. And broadly, covering all of the cap area and some of the surrounding area, is a review and analysis of the general conditions. And that includes mobility, transportation, which includes vehicular, pedestrian, and bicycle circulation and connections, not just in the critical area plan itself, but in the surrounding area and the surrounding properties. We're also going to look at what the expected improvements for all these facilities will be in the future, and what their build-out would expect. What we expect for their build-out. We're also going to look at landscaping and buffers, aesthetics, including streetscape and architectural design, and the interface and connection of other properties surrounding the cap. The Celery Fields, Special Planning Area 3, which is also another term for the Fruitville Initiative, the Palmer Avenue Cattleman Road area, and any other adjacent properties, and of course I-75. Because the critical area plan is mostly developed, we're going to limit the analysis of uses to the quads properties. And for the quads, we're going to look at a whole range of uses, including light industrial, office, commercial, including retail, hotel, and indoor-outdoor recreation, residential uses, including multifamily and affordable housing, mixed uses, and then public uses, whether that be a park, indoor-outdoor recreation, civic uses, civic or cultural uses. And the analysis of these uses will include things such as the possible or reasonable development limits. In other words, how much building or how many units would be appropriate, or how much could these properties support. We'll also look at the traffic generation of the various uses and what their impacts could be in the area. We'll look at the land use changes that will be required, because to do anything other than the office or industrial uses that these properties are designated for will require amendment to the critical area plan and the rezoning of the property. So we have, and there may be even comprehensive plan changes to accommodate some of these uses. We really haven't looked at all this in detail yet. We're also going to look at the limitation of uses. What are uses that are really incompatible with the surrounding area or the context of the properties, or something about the uses themselves. We're also going to look at the appropriate interface or buffering of the parcels with their surroundings. And that would include also looking at the building heights and setbacks. And so I also have a little bit of information about the quads parcels, of course. They're, as again outlined in yellow, they're adjacent to the main sea canal, which separates the critical area plan and the quads from the celery fields. And next slide, please. There's the 4 parcels, and the northeast quadrant is a stormwater pond. And that stormwater pond is connected to the other 3 parcels and has been engineered to accept the stormwater runoff from those parcels as developed. So when the other 3 parcels do develop, if they develop, they would not have to provide on-site stormwater storage or detention. That is taken care of in that 3rd parcel. I've also inserted into the northwestern quadrant the plan for the new fire station. You know, obviously you know that there's a temporary fire station there, and the county does have plans that are advancing now to construct a new fire station permanently in that location. As a matter of fact, there's a hearing on this Thursday evening with the Planning Commission, I believe here downtown, to rezone that parcel specifically around that fire station to government use, which we need to do to construct a fire station. Also, these parcels are within a flood zone, and it's a flood zone that doesn't have an established flood elevation. So when the engineering was done for the stormwater pond, they also did a study to determine what the appropriate finished floor elevations would need to be for these parcels. For the northwest quadrant where the fire station is, that elevation is 24 feet. For the southern 2 parcels, the elevation is 22.5 feet. Now, those elevations are somewhat above the natural grade in that area. And if you've noticed when you drive around that northwest quadrant where the fire station is, the land has been filled, and the temporary fire station is sitting well above the street elevation, and that is what that is. That has been filled basically to an elevation close to the finished floor elevation. Now, the southwest quad has not been filled. If you look at it, it looks like the natural elevation, and the southeastern quadrant has been partially filled. So depending on the use, if it isn't used for buildings, where the parcels will need to be filled to bring them up to the flood elevation. And as I mentioned before, the specific designations within the critical area plan for the quads properties. The northwest is light industrial PCD, PCD being a zoning district. Southwest quadrant is office PCD. And the southeast is light industrial PCD. And again, to develop these parcels in something other than the PCD zoning district and these uses, parcels will have to be rezoned and redesignated in this critical area plan. So both of those processes, the rezoning and redesignation in the critical area plan, require public hearings, and the processes that go along with that, public hearings with the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners to establish any of these uses. Any use is even consistent with the CAP designation at this point. Also, there's the Fresh Start initiative. And Fresh Start was a group that formed in the interest of the Quads property, a community group that went through they went through an organized process to come up with ideas and conclusions for what might be good recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners for uses of these properties. And they did produce reports to the Board of County Commissioners. And those are posted online in the same place all the other documentation for this workshop is posted, along with all the proposals that they received and went through and came up with these. We came up with 2 recommendations for each of the southern parcels. And that list of all the proposals that are received, there's a list of them in one of the handouts that I gave out to you if you're curious to look at all the different proposals there were. They went through a vetting process and came to a decision and made recommendations. For the southeast quadrant, there's 2 possible uses, one being a multi-use facility that would include trails, gardens, and a wedding pavilion and meeting area. And then alternatively, a Celery Fields themed nature lodge, restaurant with a platform for burgers. And then for the southwest quadrant, they had recommended a boulevard-style set of shops, foodieries, and upstairs residence, which is also a type of mixed-use development. And then alternatively, an outdoor sports courts and fields built, run, and maintained by the Sarasota YMCA. And this is just a partial list of all the different recommendations that Fresh Start had forwarded to us that they had received. And again, it's very interesting. The full details are posted online. It's very interesting to read all through these, and I recommend that you do so. Also very important in Fresh Start's recommendation was what they call common area enhancements. And these are recommendations that are for things that could happen. It might be on the quad's property, or it might be off the property, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with use, but these are things that would be of value to the area and would enhance that. The list they had included new roofs in the ponds, including the northeast quadrant stormwater pond, a footbridge from the southeast quadrant to the Celery Fields that would cross the Main Sea Canal, a roundabout at Apex and Palmer Boulevard intersection, a bus stop loop on the northwest quadrant, trees along Palmer Boulevard, I guess that's between the interstate and the Main Sea Canal, street side parking along Palmer, and the concept of keeping an open look at the wetlands habitat past the Main Sea Canal, and extending Center Road north to Fruitville Road. So I wanted to point these out because, again, these are ideas that are important to the area, things that might enhance it. We're also looking for recommendation and ideas along these lines, not just specific uses that may happen on the quad parcels, but concepts that look at the entire area. And go to the next slide. So we're going to go to public comment here very shortly. One of the documents I handed out was comment sheets. And you can write in comments and hand those back to us. You can scan them and email them to us. You can mail them to us. Any way you want to return them, you don't have to do it tonight. You can do it at any time. Included in there are some aerials of the critical area plan and the odds properties just for your reference. And then again, also is a list of all the proposals that came in through not only the Fresh Start process, but we received a few directly submitted to Sarasota County in the last few weeks, and those are included in that list also. On the front page, I've listed some of the things that we're interested in hearing about. Like I said, the larger area mobility, access or connections, vehicular, bicycle, pedestrian, any ideas you may have about that, landscape or buffering, streetscape or architectural design, and then of course the uses on the quads parcels. And you're welcome to suggest or offer any ideas you have about that. It could be very helpful though, if we go back to the previous slide, to make general recommendations in terms of use that might help the staff a little bit. So if you could think in terms of specifically, or instead of being very specific about a type of shop or a specific use, general use, whether it be commercial office, residential use, or public use, and whether that's for one specific parcel or for all of these parcels. And I guess the next slide, we're back to where I started. So again, we have all the documents posted online. If you have any questions, you can contact either the planner or me directly. And with this, we're going to start asking for any questions or any comments that anybody may have. We're going to use this microphone right here. So Jane is.
You're on, Jane. Did you press the button again? The red light come on?
It lit up. There we go. So we'll, I think my family wishes they had that button at home. We'll queue up in this general area, and just want to share before we get started, we have a large crowd tonight, and we are very appreciative of your time. Let's please be respectful of each other, and a few things to keep in mind. We're not going to run a timer on each person, so please make your comments succinct. As Steve mentioned, these comment sheets, there's places to write and also to draw on the maps. So if you don't get a chance to speak, or you don't feel comfortable speaking, or you want to go home and think about it, fill that out. You can either drop it off on the way out, mail it to us, or email Steve. Additionally, we're looking for constructive ideas. Questions are also welcome. Please direct your questions to staff and not necessarily at each other, please. And we'll try to move people through here. And again, if you need to use the written comments, please do so.
Hi, so Steve, this is a question. I wanted to make sure I understood you, because I may not have. Did I hear you correctly in saying that the designation of this area was established around 1985?
Well, the NEC designation was probably established before 1985, but the specific critical area plan, that's a small area plan that's outlined in red up here, that was adopted in 1985.
Okay. And in 1985, I think it's fair to say we did not have iPhones, we did not have internet, and the way we lived our lives in 1985 probably is not applicable today. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, certainly conditions have changed since 1985, yes, that's true.
Because it seems to me that small office and light industrial is rather redundant in today's world, because so many people work from home, they work from their cars, they work from anywhere, and it seems to me when I drive around town, we have a lot of space that's for lease. So has the county commission and has the planning department over those intervening years since 1985 ever rezoned any properties in this county?
Rezone properties
Yeah.
in NEC areas? I'm not sure.
Or anywhere. was it agricultural and now it's moderate residential?
Yes, it happens all the time, constantly.
Okay, so it's really not a big deal then to go from light industrial to some other purpose, is that correct?
Well, it's not a big deal. It's not that easy because we
But
want
it's done, it
we
does
want
happen.
public participation in this kind of change.
But are you going to listen?
Pardon?
But will you listen? You want us to participate, the county invites us to participate. I've lived here for 12 years, and we don't seem to get heard. Whatever's, the developers, the builders get heard. I've watched as neighborhoods, the density has increased. I've watched as, east of I-75, where they had like 500-foot wide corridors for wildlife, got shrunk to 350, got shrunk to, 100, 150 feet now? So we can go the other way, can't we? We can actually take something that's zoned light industrial and turn it into perhaps something green. Because one of the things that disturbs me most when I drive around this beautiful city, it's not just the loss of green, it's the loss of water. If you look at retention ponds, like in all these fancy developments, they have no more water. And they have no more water because there's no more ground absorbing it. I'm sorry, I feel very passionately about this. And I think it's important that we're clear that just as we went, our life is different than it was in 1985. We have a whole new generation of people who don't live the way we were brought up. There's whole philosophies out there about this millennials and not having roots. They don't live the way we do. We don't live the way we used to. And we need the green. Highest and best is defined as dollars, but you cannot water your lawn with dollars. You cannot drink those dollars. But it restores the soul to see the green. It restores the soul to see the wildlife. It restores the soul to see the water. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. So I'm just going to try and do it really quick. I've been here over 30 years. I moved down to Florida in 1983, and I go to the Celery Fields and walk probably every other weekend. And I went online today and I looked up TripAdvisor, which a lot of people look at nowadays to try and figure out where they want to go and what they want to do. Celery Fields has 4.5 stars. It's number 22 out of 130 things to do in Sarasota. Comments from Connecticut. Great place to walk and bird. From Venice, Florida. Nice place to walk, take kids and dogs. Birds, birds, birds from New Hampshire. Lovely escape nature and Florida. Breathtaking. That's from special bird, that's from Bradenton. Special bird watching area, Delaware. Not one of the comments, even the negative, which there were 3, said anything about any of this. There was no, oh darn, I wish there was a skateboard center there, or I really wish there was a hotel with a restaurant and I could look at the birds from out of the window. All of them mentioned nature, birds, and the natural environment. I think the best thing we could do is just leave it alone. I don't think we need any more doctor's offices. Walking trails, maybe put in better restrooms, improve that whole area so that people will want to come. Tourism brings in money to Sarasota. That's our biggest money.
I'm here speaking on behalf of Sarasota Audubon, and of course, most especially Celery Fields. I cannot overemphasize enough as a birder, as a naturalist, as someone that just finds that nature has restored my soul since I moved here from Manhattan. I cannot tell you how passionately it is important to save Celery Fields, but I'm not here to harangue about that. I need to put out a very grave warning. You cannot ring Celery Fields with light industry and buildings and expect the birds to say, I swear on the holiest Bible or whatever, you cannot build light industry right next to Celery Fields. At least save Quad 1 and keep it a park, which is what we have proposed. I cannot tell you, birds don't love buildings. Yeah. And we already have enough building right there, and I think it's fine the way it is. But please, even if you put lights there, if you put a footbridge over from the quad right onto the actual Celery Fields, what you do is the shrinking breeding area of all these birds dramatically it shrinks. So please, already birds are very severely threatened in this area. We already seeing a lot of dead birds. I saw a dead sandhill crane, and no one even moved it right at the beginning where the quads would, and the intersection of the quads and the Celery Fields itself on Palmer Road. So please, when you think about your proposals, do not build bridges from the quads over to Celery Fields itself. You will destroy what this other lady just said about tourism and how many people worldwide love this area. Let's keep it the way it is and love it the way it is and not change it. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Christine Purvis-Johnson, President of Conservation Foundation of the Gulf Coast. Our mission to save land includes land of high environmental value and land that is important to our community's heritage and history. That is why we're working to save land on the east side of Celery Fields. Our efforts, combined with the efforts of others to utilize the quad properties for the public good, complement one another. Their proposal to utilize the quad parcels for public engagement and wildlife enhancement dovetails perfectly with our plan to save the eastern side and its existing rural character as a 1,212-acre wildlife conservation park, where people of all ages can horseback ride, get up close to lions and tigers and other exotic animals, and live in neighborhoods of low density. In fact, we can all envision the entire neighborhood as a rural heritage conservation area, honoring our country's rich heritage of family farms, a place where people can learn the difference between a blue jay and a blue bird, where they can watch and enjoy a lion and tiger show, an area that is protected from encroachment and development so that families who want to continue to live with nature or have a family farm or a plant nursery can stay, and so that urban peoples can learn about our working land heritage. Where all are welcomed by a 40-acre gateway park that celebrates our community's love of nature, where hundreds of trees shade families while they enjoy a picnic, and native plants grow, feeding butterflies and bees. A place where visitors and residents alike can all see the hundreds of types of birds that fly thousands of miles using Sarasota to stop over and rest. This vision of a rural heritage conservation area will give visitors more to do so they will stay longer and spend more money. Picture with me a family enjoying a bird watching event in the morning, then walking over to Big Cat Habitat to learn about lions and tigers, then having a picnic lunch under beautiful shade trees at Gateway Park, ending their day with a horseback ride. We can all envision the 40 acres